So, Blazing Barrier. It's your main shield. Use the gates when the time is 25 seconds so that you can barrier right away when the first one falls off, and use it on cooldown. Ice Block. This is your main defensive cooldown. Overflowing Energy. Passive 10% crit damage. Incanter's Flow. Passive 10% intellect. Winter's Protection. This is really only useful if you're playing Mage Lock 3 so that both you and the Warlock have 3-minute defensives. This is pretty much useless with every other comp. Spell Steal, this allows you to purge buffs from the target. It has a high mana cost though, and you can only cast 5 Spell Steals before you go Tempest Barrier, this gives you a buff that shields you for 6% HP, and it's helpful to cover your Alter Time buff from being purged. Incantation of Swiftness is not very good. Remove Curse allows you to remove Hex and Curses from you or your party members, very useful. Arcane Warding, 4% reduced magic damage taken, useful because a lot of classes use magic in Dragonflight. Mirror Images, this is useful to slow enemies and gives you a 20% damage wall. Shifting Power is essential to reducing the cooldown of major spells such as Combustion, Ice Block, and Alter Time. Alter Time, this is your second main defensive cooldown as a mage. Cryo Freeze is only useful in Rogue Mage 2s without a healer. Reduplication is not good in PvP since Mirror Images cannot taunt enemy players, and therefore the Mirror Images never take direct damage and only die from AoE damage in PvP. Reabsorption suffers from this same problem of Mirror Images never taking direct damage in PvP, and you won't benefit from these talents at all in PvP. Quick-Witted shortens the counterspell CD. Mass Polymorph, not very good since Ring of Frost does the same thing, but Mass Poly is worse than Ring since it's on the same magic school as Polymorph. Slow, not very good since other abilities in the Mage toolkit can already slow for you. Master of Time, essential to lower the cooldown of Alter Time. It also makes Alter refund a blink charge. Diverted Energy is not very good in Dragonflight since barriers do not have a high shield value, but it used to be good in Shadowlands when mages had the ability to cast all 3 barriers at once, but yeah, not anymore. Ring of Frost, it's amazing for eating kicks. You can DB into Ring, let it get kicked, and then safely cast a Polymorph. Ice Nova, good for stopping enemy mobility and dealing instant cast damage. Shimmer, amazing for kiting since all the melee DPS are very mobile. However, this does mean that you can no longer blink stuns, so if you're fighting a subtlety rogue with lots of stuns, it's probably better to run a different talent so that you can blink to get out of stuns. Ice Flows, this is good, but I find it very clunky and I don't ever use this talent. Mass Slow, not good. Blast Wave is amazing for interrupting enemy casts since it knocks them back, and also the slow effect is very nice. Improved Frost Nova is not good in PvP since the damage in Dragonflight is very high, and most Frost Novas almost always break from AoE or dot damage. Rigid Ice, this is nerfed in PvP, basically it doesn't work at all. Tome of Ronin, crit chance is useless for fire since we have Combustion and Fire Blast to guarantee crits. Tome of Antonidas, 2% haste, almost useless but still kind of good. Volatile Detonation, increases the knockback effect of Blast Wave, which is very good for kiting melee. Energized Barriers is great for getting extra Fire Blasts and also makes your barriers remove slows. Frigid Winds, not very good since you already have a lot of mobility. Flow of Time, this is nerfed in PvP, but it's used for pathing. Temporal Velocity, used for pathing. Ice Ward, not good. Freezing Cold, not good. Time Manipulation, essential for reducing the Dragon's Breath cooldown. Displacement, this is sort of a 4th blink and heals you for a small amount of HP. Accumulative Shielding, not very good since barriers get killed very quickly. Greater Invis is a 60% damage wall on a 2-minute cooldown, making this your 3rd defensive cooldown. Dragon's Breath, 4-second Disorient, essential for landing Polymorph, landing damage, and stopping the enemy from casting or dealing damage. Ice Cold, PvE talent, not used in PvP since its full immunity is better at saving your life than reducing damage taken. Temporal Warp, so Temporal Warp is also a PvE talent since you can't use Time Warp in Arena, and Time Anomaly is amazing because it gives you the ability to get Time Warp in Arena or extra damage. Mass Invis is only good in Rogue Mage compositions where you want to use Stealth in the opener. Mass Barrier, very good for barrier uptime and can also save you or your teammates from dying. Moving on to the Fire Tree, we have Pyroblast, this is part of your main damage. Fire Blast, this is part of your main damage as well, and it's castable while casting other spells, it always crits. Pyrotechnics, Pathing. Scorch, Pathing. Phoenix Flames, this is your main damage, similar to Fire Blast. Surging Blaze increases pyro damage by 10%. Searing Touch causes Scorch to deal more damage than Fireball when the target is in execute range, and will take the place of Fireball in your rotation if the target is below 30% HP. Firestarter makes Pyro and Fireball guaranteed to crit on targets above 90% health. Useful to damage big shields and reduce the cooldown of Combustion. Fervent Flickering gives you a small chance to get extra Fire Blasts. Fuel the Fire, not very good. Improved Scorch, causes Scorch to increase your damage by up to 12% to targets in execute range. Critical Mass increases crit chance of your spells, not good. Intensifying Flame causes Ignite to flare up, dealing AoE damage that can break CC, so it's not very good in PvP. Flame On, essential to increase Fire Blast charges. Flame Patch, not good, barely deals damage. Alexstrasza's Fury is essential to guarantee Phoenix Flames to critically strike, and From the Ashes is not better than Alexstrasza's Fury in both PvE and PvP. Combustion, this is your main burst cooldown that gives you a 100% crit chance. Living Bomb, pretty good, deals about 100k damage, similar to Pyroblast. Incendiary Eruptions, this is pretty good, but it's too random. Call of the Sun King, essential for extra Phoenix Flames charges. Firemind, passive 3% intellect. Improved Combustion, increases the duration of your combustion, which helps deal more damage in PvP. Tempered Flames, one of the worst talents. Reducing the duration of combust in PvP is very bad. You want to be in combust as long as possible. Feel the Burn, this is a passive 6% mastery, a small amount of extra damage. Not very good, but better than the other choices, which would be Critical Mass, Intensifying Flame, and Fuel the Fire. Convection gives Living Bomb a small chance to reduce its own cooldown. Phoenix Reborn gives Ignite a chance to deal AoE damage, which can break CC, but this is useful in 3v3s because it gives you a 10% chance to refund Phoenix Flames. Fevered Incantation, nerfed by 50% in PvP, but basically a passive 4% critical strike damage buff. Master of Flame increases Ignite damage, not very good. Kindling, essential for passively reducing the cooldown of combustion. Pyromaniac makes the rotation very clunky, practically broken, not good. This talent is getting fixed in the War Within though. Inflame increases Ignite damage, not very good. Conflagration gives Fireball an extra dot that deals AoE dam, which can break CC, not very good in PvP. Firefall, after 15 Fireballs or Pyros, you automatically cast Meteor on the target. This deals AoE damage that breaks CC, but rarely procs. Controlled Destruction, Pathing. Flame Accelerant, essential. Make Fireball deal 200k damage. Fiery Rush, nerfed in PvP, doesn't help you get any extra Pyros during combustion. Not very good. Wildfire, nerfed by 50% in PvP, basically passive critical strike damage increase. Meteor, used for one-shotting in 2s, not useful in 3s since it makes your burst more telegraphed to the enemy team and they will always know when to counter your burst with a defensive cooldown. Hyperthermia, in 3s, this is an essential passive buff for dealing damage when your combustion is on cooldown. Sun King's Blessing is nerfed heavily in PvP, it's only useful in PvE. Unleashed Inferno, passive 50% damage buff to all spells during combust and helps reduce the cooldown. And finally, Deep Impact, which buffs meteor damage for the one-shot rotation in 2s. Moving on to PvP talents, Whirled in Flames. Whirled in Flames is not very good since players are always moving around in PvP, and it's hard to center your flame strikes for the maximum value. It's better to just use Pyroblast since it tracks with the target. Flame Cannon, essential passive damage buff that builds when no players are closer than 15 yards, which is just outside of Dragon's Breath range. Greater Pyroblast, essential for dealing quick damage to force defensive cooldowns and combined with Combustion for big burst damage. Ring of Fire, not good since it telegraphs your burst and allows the healer to stand on it and avoid polymorphs. Ice Wall is redundant in my opinion since mages already have a lot of mobility to utilize the natural pillars in arenas and BGs. However, this is still a really cool talent and fun to mess around with and can also cause the game to lag for your enemies if they have ray tracing enabled. Glass Cannon, essential to make Fireball deal 200k damage. Master Shepherd, not very good since you only get the damage buff while the target is CC'd. Ethereal Blink, not good since you already have a lot of mobility from Shimmer. And finally, improved mass invisibility. So this is only good if you're a Night Elf and want to avoid CC or big casts like the Hunt, Chaos Bolt, or Greater Pyroblast. This is not Shadow Meld, and it will not remove dots, so you will get hit out immediately. It's not very good.